Cazimi, in the heart of it. I haven't played saxophone here on the Instagram side before. Hopefully that wasn't just terribly loud. I won't be in this place, the Instagram place, for too long, by the way. Just realized reviewing long videos in this place is completely annoying and kind of impossible, so why make them? So if you want to see the long version of this thing, head over to my YouTube page, Gemini Brett. Well, let's talk about the short version. First of all, just playing there, I was just kind of finding my way and see where the saxophone brought me, trying to honor the power of this Scorpio Mars Cazimi, which means in the heart of it, in the throne room, Sun conjunct Mars. On average, this happens every 780 days. And it hasn't gone down in Mars' home sign of Scorpio since 1959. No, that's not true. There was one Sun conjunct Mars in Scorpio in 1991. 1959, the time before that. 1944, 1912, 1897, 1880, 1865. And we could keep retrograding back, rewinding the clock. But look, what if I pronounced it in this way instead? Gulf War, Vietnam, World War II, World War I, the Ottoman-Greek War, the First Boer War, the Second Anglo-Afghan War, that's 1880, the American Civil War. And it's not like those were the only ones happening at the time, but I've titled this video not The Art of War, but rather The Art of the Awakened Heart. For me, this is the Scorpio design. And Mars, who's such an expressive kind of outward being, hopefully the authenticity of the awakened human heart is part of the intention or the calling or the invitation of this particular and powerful alignment. Again, it's about every 780 days when Sun and Mars align in earthly sky. But it is very rare for them to be as aligned as they are today. Or tonight, depending on where on Earth you reside. For us here in Pacific time zone, 9:41, 9:42 p.m. Nighttime is the right time, maybe especially for Scorpio. And the sign of Scorpio currently hosts Mars' south node. So this means kind of like an eclipse, which is moon conjunct sun. Well, for a solar eclipse at one of moon's nodes, a conjunction not only in longitude and zodiac degree, but also in latitude. This is happening with Sun and Mars now. Of course, we won't see Mars occulting Sun. The Sun is between us and Mars. We definitely can't see Mars back far as possible from Earth. In the fires of the Sun, there's a composting happening, but it's alignment of heart of Earth, heart of Sun, heart of Mars. It's very powerful now. And of course, sadly, it's very martial right now. War is in the air, isn't it? I mean, if you really look, when has it not been in our lives? It's a terrifying thing. And though when I read out these dates of these Sun-Mars alignments in the sign of Scorpio and see that, war was in the air at those times, it's, for me, not what the design of this alignment is, or not the way that I'm going to work with this personally. Now, I'm of great gratitude for the privilege I have to be able to experience this Earth-Sun-Mars alignment in Earth-Scorpio in peacetime, in a place where I'm safe. Like, I will go out at night at this time of the alignment and sit and feel it and try to feel Earth feeling it, which likely will hopefully open my heart to the heart of Earth and all of her earthlings, and that can be a very painful process. But importantly, while Pisces is the one heart, Scorpio is my heart, or your heart, or your heart, or your heart, right? Fix sign. Fix yourself to fix the world. So for me, the fixed signs actually speak about the art of their element. What is the art of the water, but the art of feeling, the art of the heart? The astrology books in my shelves would tell you that Scorpio is meant to be hidden and secretive. I think that's what the church did. I think Scorpio is really designed for the exact opposite of this. It's about learning to open to the deep range of the human felt experience and all of its passions and all of its joys and all of its deceptions and pains. And to not only openly experience, but openly express the art of the heart, the power of the water. But also Scorpio control. So in the world without control systems, powers. What is the power of control? How can we control power? In the world within, maybe a more interesting question. Aliveness. And learning to kind of focus that authentic expression of the awakened human heart in such a way that it doesn't terrify those who are struck by the water, right? So don't dam it, right? But maybe don't turn the faucet on full power either, right? So where is that place in between? Well, so much of this has to do with what to say, what not to say, what not to say. For some things must be said, but how to say them in respect with who we are saying them to or with. What to hear, what not to hear, what not to hear. Should I bury my head in the sand? But how to hear it based upon respect for my own heart. Right? So how much of the cold and how much of the hot, right? When we're playing with this faucet, do we want to let in? Do you feel me? What if instead of trying to narrate this experience, I can just have this experience and then reflect? I mean, amazingly, as the heart of Earth, the heart of Sun, the heart of Mars align today, tonight, depending where on the surface you are. It's 9:41 Pacific time on Friday, Venus's Day, November 17th, 2023. For some of you, that will be Saturday in the daylight. For all of us, an out of bounds Capricorn moon will be at Pluto's side for this Mars Cazimi, Mars in the throne room, Mars in the heart of the sun, which itself is trine Neptune. So keep the faith, dream the higher vision. Neptune in Pisces. Pisces, the fifth of Scorpio, the child of Scorpio. There's a couple ways I can play this. Put Scorpio at the first, Neptune is the fifth. So if I allow myself my emotional experience and develop my emotional range, my feelings is a better way, because emotions is what we think of our feelings. Feelings is us feeling them. What does that birth but compassion? Empathy and sympathy are very different things. Empathy is born through experience. And even though my traumas and yours might look very different, because we have both been initiated, at least I can offer some heart when you're going through it. Because I've allowed myself to. There's courage in this space, yes? So the trine with Neptune in Pisces, Pisces the fifth of Scorpio, the child of Scorpio in that regard. Or let's turn it the other way. So Pisces is on the rise, Scorpio is the ninth. And so the Pisces walk should study in the Scorpio mysteries, ninth being the place of university and the pilgrimage and the journey. Again, how can I develop compassion and the one heart if I haven't allowed my own to experience and to express? This is the invitation. This is the imploration. Is that a word? This is the demand. But may we do this in balance. And I love that Venus is in Libra at this time, strong, beautiful, while Mars so invisible, Venus anything but, high and bright, beaming in the morning sky. And Venus now is parallel Neptune. So while Mars and Sun in this conjunction have an aspect with Neptune, the trine, Venus parallel Neptune, which means that Venus is following Neptune through the sky. Or was that the other way around? The same place Venus rises on your horizon, the same altitude Venus reaches halfway between her rise and her rest, that same place where she will rest in the southwest. Neptune is rising there. Neptune is reaching that height. Neptune is setting. Neptune is following Venus through the sky. Venus is following Neptune through the sky. This connection of Libra and Pisces. How do we maintain balance? If we want to open the compassionate experience of the one heart, for while I am safe to experience this conjunction tonight, so many are not. Am I willing to feel that in any way I might? How can I if my experience doesn't or hasn't allowed? Well, the invitation says, feel you. And what is your power? And how can you control that? Not in some awful way. Say yes. It's not as much of a surrendering, depending on where we are in this, and we're all in all the places. It's not as much of a surrendering as it is in allowing the power of our heart to lead the way, and controlling that power so that we may do so in imbalance, and also honoring that fixed sign, fix yourself to fix the world, so that when we do open the wide, compassionate heart that doesn't see sides, we won't drown in those seas because we know who we are. That's the feels, as much as I can say them. You know, the saxophone had a lot more to say at the beginning, and sorry, in some of these places, maybe that was too loud, and I'm realizing probably my voice has been too quiet in one of them because I forgot to turn my mic up beyond saxophone level anyway. Interestingly, in that improvisation that I began with, the notes, the mysteries led me to this melody I had played before, and as I was playing it, I ended with this. I was like, what is that? And now I'm just remembering it was something that I was playing on my horn to soundtrack one of my old StarryTelling podcast episodes about Medusa. So maybe we should talk about Medusa a bit. If you'd like to hear that, and if you'd like to play with some charts too, come all over to the YouTube space. And yeah, for the folks who are there, I'm so sorry that the volume has been so low. It's because I had this thing set to saxophone. And I think I'll do that again. I think as I end the video in this place, come on over to YouTube. My channel there is Gemini Bread if you want to explore and take some time together, whether it's presently or in the future. Where we'll play some horn again, and then I'll remember to turn the mic back up to talk about some of these things, to feel into some of these things. Thanks for spending some time with me, friends. May this heart of Earth, heart of Sun, heart of Mars alignment awaken the powers of your heart. May you allow those powers to express, and in such a controlled way that you can inspire through the beauty of your waves. See you in space. Right. I don't know, YouTube, since I was probably whispering for much of that time, and maybe there's a way in post-production I could shift that. My question is, should I just erase this thing and start all over again? But the truth is, I don't know if I would be able to say what I just said again. I'd say something totally different, and hopefully it would be just as relevant. That's implying that what I already said was, by the way. It's how I'm feeling these things. How are you? Rachel, I appreciate you saying it was not that low. It kind of depends on the device upon which you were listening. All right, well, this would be really loud if I didn't do this. So I want to get into this melody that found its way through me again. Gosh, it's been years since I've played it, and I like it. Hello. So years ago, I really had my StarryTelling podcast going. And I see somebody saying, just play the sax loud. No, if I didn't turn the mic down, it would be all distorted and whatnot. All right. Blow your speakers out and sound terrible, but we have to remember to push this thing. I wish I just had a button that was like saxophone, voice. If I did, I would play the horn way more here. Yeah, that melody came out some time ago. I remember when in one of my StarryTelling podcast episodes, I was talking about Medusa and Perseus and Pegasus. It's definitely my favorite episode from the StarryTelling podcast in that era. I wish I could just put a link here, and I'll find it and put a link in the descriptions here. It was a powerful thing. It was kind of a vehicle to talk about the blood moons of 2014 and 2015, if I recall. And I remember I did a live storytelling of it with my friends and old bandmates and amazing beings, Carlos Tullis and Allison Tullis, and then Mark Fendel, the great saxophone player. And the thing just didn't record. And Mark had to go home. It was super late night. That's how we rolled. And so then I played saxophone. And I really just kind of played that melody. And it was just, and like Carlos and Allison on instruments were making this amazing kind of soundscape beneath it. It was wonderful. And I used to just listen to the instrumental of it, which I can no longer find. I remember at one point being on Hawaii, you know, what they call the Big Island of Hawaii, right? And just driving around on Mauna Kea and listening to that one night, and it was important. Anyway, I love that podcast. My podcast used to be at SoundCloud, and I moved those episodes over to Spotify. I just got a message from them yesterday that it's now there, by the way. Discerning Light says you can put your stream sound through a mixer and to separate. Yes, I could, but that would be a whole bunch of other stuff here. And what's here is crystals and plants and dice and other things that I need in my kind of altar-ish space when I do sessions, and hopefully less tech. But yeah, I could, right? And what wonderful advice from Discerning Light, right? We could discern the saxophone volume versus the voice volume. Anyway, in the end, though, I really missed Mark's playing on that track. It was, I think, good. It was the only one that I ever played on, because usually I was telling stories, so I had to go back and record the story later, and I really got into the production of the thing. And it was, it was a powerful episode. Medusa, it's about the most powerful story. So this eye of hers, which interestingly projects to a zodiac degree, basically opposite from this evening's Mars Cazimi. Let me put this on your screen. And weird that this melody is going to bring me to a place that I really didn't intend to go with this jam, but we follow the signs, So I have this cast in a 0 Aries wheel, so I can just kind of speak more globally. Here's this Mars Cazimi. How this will look where I am in Richmond, California, is it won't, because it will be down beneath the ground. Jupiter and Saturn will be the lights that I get to play with visibly at the time, which is 9:41:37 p.m. November 17th, 2023, Friday. Venus's day, although interestingly, when the sun sets, some of the magical traditions would suggest that becomes the night of Mars. Tale for another time. All right, but that's me locally, right? As I go to this 0 Aries wheel, the tropical signs are our planet Earth's houses. So a good way for me to kind of just speak a little bit more globally about the thing. Anyway, across from this 26th degree of Taurus, where Sun and Mars meet at this time, and by the way, super close to the south node of Mars. Let's show you that. Planetary nodes with visibles. So Mars 2536 Scorpio with the Sun, the south node of Mars at the time at 2201 Scorpio. So they're very close, and this puts Mars very close to the ecliptic. So it really is heart of Earth, heart of Sun, heart of Mars. At this time, Mars will be only 7 arc minutes south of the ecliptic. A very strong alignment of Earth, Sun, Mars, which can only happen when Mars and Sun conjoin at one of Mars's nodes. South node is Scorpio, north node in Taurus. A thing that came through in that when I was contemplating it, I believe yesterday, in these streams I've been doing lately, was, we're coming from this super intense place. Like, I get obsessed with things in that scorpionic kind of deep dive, But how can we make sure that it's transmitted in such a way, and hopefully they also experience in such a way that it can land the opposite side, the Taurus side, where we do find Uranus right now, okay? So you might not want to go. Also, let me put the Bohemian stars on the screen, and we will see that here at 26 degrees and 30 arc minutes of tropical Taurus, so almost exactly opposite this Sun-Mars conjunction, is the zodiac degree that the Bohemian star, the magical star of Hermes, called Algol, projects to. Now, when I say projects to, this is important. Mars currently, because Mars is at his node, only 7 arc minutes away from the ecliptic. That's the plane of matter and spirit, or at least of Earth and Sun. Earth orbiting the Sun, or from Earth's point of view, Sun orbiting us. This is the ecliptic. Well, all planets have their own orbital paths. So Mars's path takes Mars north and south of the ecliptic. Right? Moon's path snakes above and below the Sun's path every month. Right? This is why we call the north and south nodes of the moon the dragon's head, the dragon's tail. I prefer serpent's head and tail. You can feel the snaking, right? And only when moon and sun meet at one of these intersection points, one of these nodes or knots, do we have shadow play eclipse. Typically a new moon is a no moon, because depending on where on Earth you're looking from, moon is either above the sun or below. But when moon and sun meet at a node, shadow play, eclipse, powerful magic, this transformation. And here we have Sun, Mars at Mars's node. So really heart of Earth, heart of Sun, heart of Mars. And on the opposite side, we find Mars's north node in Taurus. Now, interestingly, when you look from Earth, unlike the nodes of the moon, north and south planetary nodes are not exactly opposite to one another. Now, I don't want to trip so much on that right now. But I can say this, like when we look at these longitudes, which means zodiac degree to you and me, of where Mars and Sun are meeting now, the 26th degree of tropical Scorpio, and we look across the way, 26 Taurus is the projection of Algol. What do we mean projection? Well, Algol happens to live. Let me show this to you in another way, thanks to the wonderful gift of Stellarium astronomy software. Let's open that up and I will show you this Bohemian star of Hermes. I'm going to have to dim the light and also let Algol rise. Algol, who is the eye of the Gorgon Medusa, held by Perseus. Here's Algol. Now, when I say Algol is at 26 Taurus, tropical Taurus, what I'm doing, because Algol is a full 22.5 degrees north of the heart of the zodiac, north of Earth's path, is I'm projecting, drawing a perpendicular line from Algol down to the path of the sun. All right. So though Mars and Sun are on the opposite side of the Algol degree, they're not necessarily opposite Algol right now, and that's an important truth or distinction. Share another thing with you when we speak about projections and latitude. Celestial latitude is how far a planet or a star is north or south of the ecliptic, which is the plane of Earth and Sun. Here's Moon tonight. Moon incredibly out of bounds south, like wise enough to duck beneath Pluto. And not too far, because Pluto's also south. Pluto's south node is in Capricorn, so Pluto here at the late Capricorn going into Aquarius is actually south of the ecliptic plane. Further south than I would think, actually. 2 degrees and 45 minutes, about 3 degrees south of the ecliptic. You can't count them here, 1, 2, 3. But let's look at Moon as we move through time. Let me take the supersize away from the Moon. Moon. When she passes Pluto by, And this is going to be right around the time of this Mars Cazimi. Moon, from the northern hemisphere point of view, is going to go under Pluto. From the southern hemisphere point of view, above Pluto, right? Here's the Moon-Pluto conjunction, right, in the zodiac, because they both project to the same longitude, though they have different latitudes, right? And so the example I often use when I speak about this is, I used to live in Seattle, Washington. Now I live in Richmond, California. We're at the same exact longitude. Literally, my house where I'm sitting right now is exactly south of my old house in West Seattle. Like, it's a trip. Exactly. But it's hella far away because latitude is a thing. You see what I'm saying? We don't show it on our charts. So I can put Algol's degree on the charts. He's 56 degrees celestial longitude. What does that mean? 30 plus 26, Aries, and then more 26 more degrees. In other words, 26 Taurus. And in today, Algol projects to 2630 tropical Taurus. So a pretty close opposition from the heart of Earth, Sun, and Mars, where they meet today at 2536 Scorpio, right? This is within a half a degree of an opposition to Algol. And yet, it's not like they're exactly opposite in space, right? Contemplate this, as I was saying before, right? We have solar eclipse not at every new moon, right? Only when moon and sun meet at the intersections of their orbital paths. That's the lunar nodes. Now, I just did a podcast with somebody, Angela, who's like an astrologer and into human design, and she was showing me in my design how the Earth was here, and I have like a hard time when people draw the Earth glyph opposite the Sun glyph in the zodiac. I imagine many of you have seen that done. The idea is if Sun's in Scorpio, from Earth's point of view, then from the Sun's point of view, Earth is in Taurus. No, the Sun has his own zodiac, and I'm not on the Sun. And the Earth is the center of the chart. You know what is opposite the Sun in the zodiac? The shadow of Earth. And when that shadow of Earth is close to one of the nodes, because on the opposite side the Sun is close to one of the lunar nodes, that means that the full moon at this intersection of the Sun's path and the Earth's path will actually move through Earth's shadow. Intersection of the Sun's path and the Moon's path, right? The lunar nodes, right? So lunar eclipse, moon passing through Earth's shadow, which is exactly always opposite the Sun. So I hadn't contemplated this yet. Really, literally, I'm just trying to improvise some music that makes me, that I feel around this Scorpio Mars thing and all of this challenging happening in the sky. And on Earth, more importantly. And the melody leads me to this. What is that again? It's like, oh, right. That's that weird ghosty melody that I played in that Medusa podcast some time ago. I'm going to play it again if that's okay. It's going to help me get to where I think I should go. Check, hello. I'm working hard to try not to resolve everything I play these days. It's good for us. It's good for me. It's good for music. Sorry about that squeak. What are you going to do? Sometimes it's like that, right? We try to do a thing and it just goes, you know? Saxophones are really good teachers. Yeah, and I just actually, that time, thanks for letting me play that again. Wait, why am I thanking you? This is my channel. I'm in control here. No, we're doing this together, y'all. Yeah, I forgot that there was that other note that I went to in that thing. Right there, up to the ninth. Should talk about the ninth harmonic. Maybe we will. I was thinking it might be fun to look at Sun-Mars harmonics as an example of play today. But let's get a little bit storytelling. Let's get a little bit mystical. So I have a hard time when people say that the Earth is opposite the Sun in the zodiac. No. The Earth is the center of a geocentric chart. The center of the Earth is the center. What is opposite the Sun is the shadow of Earth. And by longitude, though Algol is 22 degrees north of that, at the time of tonight's Mars Cazimi, today for some of you, the shadow of Earth will be aligned with Algol, with a demon star. What do you mean demon star? Really? And they say that this star, this Bohemian star, one of the 15 magical stars of Mercury herself, is very powerful. That in the natal chart, Algol can do damage. But when worked with magically, can open up beautiful powers. I know diamond to be the stone associated with Algol. It's a star I haven't worked with so much yet, personally. So I wish I could report the Algolian plants and other things, sigils and whatnot. You know what, maybe I'll just look really quickly to the short list for the Bohemian stars and tell you that Algol, according to some of the Renaissance magicians, is associated with diamond and with black hellebore. Which is an amazingly white flower. And I'd have to learn a lot more about black hellebore. Some of you, I'm sure, know. Oh, commonly called the Christmas rose. Well, that's fun. An evergreen perennial flowering plant in the buttercup family. Ranunculaceae. I cannot pronounce that. It is poisonous. All right, well, let's just stop there. You know what? So are diamonds. That's why I can't even afford to propose. Wait, I told you I wasn't going to make this about me. Right. Algol. I am perhaps as personally triggered as I am when I hear people say that the Earth is opposite the Sun in the zodiac. No, it's not, but Earth's shadow is, and it's a very important truth. Almost, or maybe more so, triggered when I hear people say that Perseus cut Medusa's head off and this is the patriarchy. It's the story of the patriarchy in the sky. Somebody needs to put one of those little foul language stickers, explicit lyric stickers on the page, because fuck that. Do you know why Perseus cut Medusa's head off? He did it for his mommy, to save his mom from the terrible fate of becoming the queen to a shit patriarchal king. Perseus cut Medusa's head off to resist the patriarchy. You mythically ignorant. Now look, hey, you can rewrite the story if you like. That's part of the human thing. But, you know, you might want to learn how it was written. Who turned Medusa's hair into serpents? Who turned Medusa into Gorgon? Does anyone want to answer that here in the live chat wisdom? Was it the patriarchy? It was Athena. Now, when I've made this argument in the past, there's a really beautiful retort, which is, yeah, but Athena was born from Jupiter's skull. Athena is the brainchild of the patriarchy. That's a really fun one, and I deeply appreciate it. Athena, who is wisdom, why? Why would Athena punish the queen Medusa in this way? Medusa, who I believe was a queen of Libya. Let me see this. Maybe Ethiopia. No, Libya. Right? Ethiopia comes in later in the tale with Cephas and Cassiopeia and Andromeda, their daughter. Medusa was a queen of Libya. And in the Ovid tale, which always makes it 1,000 times harsher than other versions, Poseidon took her. I'm trying to avoid the R word. And others, they simply made love. But where? In the hallowed halls of Athena's temple. And why? Because Athens was named Athens. Why? Because of the two who competed for this honor. Poseidon lost. Poseidon had said, some say in this competition of who could bring in the greatest creation, that Poseidon created the horse. But some say he did so only so that with his team of horses, there would be enough horsepower to pull the stone off of the Acropolis so that water would sprout forth, right? So his great gift to this wonderful place that would have so much import to the world, this place that we now call Athens, he gifted this spring. Unfortunately, it's Poseidon. He ain't the god of the river, he's the god of the sea, and so the spring was salty. And what are you going to do with a spring of salt water, you know? You can only take so many scrubs. It's not going to quench your thirst. And so when Athena or Minerva produced the olive branch, this was the greater of the creations, and so Athens was named for Athena. And so some say it was just Poseidon trying to strike back by tarnishing the hallowed halls of the Virgin's temple by making love with this human queen of Libya, Medusa, in this place. And so Medusa had the looks that could kill, right? She's this beautiful queen, and then she sure did after that, because, I mean, maybe this was because Athena could not strike Poseidon himself. Or maybe there's some other reason, but maybe it was jealousy, anger, and she needed to punish this human queen, this beautiful queen who now became this monster, this Gorgon, right? Whose looks would literally turn you to stone. Whose breath could basically kill you. Right? It's like, it was a bad scene, y'all. And look, what would it be to be this beautiful queen and then be turned into that, right? I mean, she lived and hid away from it all. This dark ruins outside of town. And this is where Perseus was sent by Athena and Hermes, who equipped him, Athena with a beautiful shield, and Mercury a sword and winged boots. Like, lent the dude to boots. So he could not only go find out where Medusa was, but then also, Yeah, sever her head. And bring it back to this terrible king. For this would be the gift that would keep him from demanding his mother, Perseus's mother, Danae's hand. Now the whole thing was, in the king's point of view, just this plot to get rid of this super strong child, who, by the way, was the son of Zeus, and maybe we should talk about that. And sadly, you know, these, like, one of these myth books for kids these days, what is it called? Percy Jackson, right? They say he's the son of Neptune. It's like, why'd you do that? Like, I love that they're sharing the myth. Like, he's the son of Zeus. So actually, let's retrograde. Let's rewind. And this is super Scorpionic. And hey, Peter, nice to see you. Yeah, let's rewind. Let's talk about Perseus' grandfather. Now, that's the patriarchy, son. He was not a good king. I'm currently forgetting his name, and I butcher the pronunciation as I do anyway. But he went to Oracle to ask when he would have his son, when his heir would be born. His daughter had already. This is Danae. This is the mother of Perseus. This great hero, Perseus. Perseus, who stands on the Pleiades. So king goes to the oracle. It's like, yo, where's my son? It's like, oh, not only will you not have one, but your daughter's son will kill you. It's like, oh shit. And so to prevent this, he chose to kill his daughter before his grandson could be born. But he couldn't do it. Was it compassion? Was it familiar love? Was it a lack of some kind of Mars that wouldn't allow this king to kill his own daughter? So he instead imprisoned her to make sure that she could never become pregnant. She was trapped in a bronze cage beneath the ground. Now, this was a princess-worthy cage, all right? Like, it wasn't some tiny thing. Says the fly on the wall, that is my eye of this ancient myth. A palace underground, but of bronze, so no one could get in and out. But of course, there were grates so the air could come through, so she could breathe. And through those grates, one night came the light of Jupiter. The golden shower of light came through and impregnated Danae, and so she gave birth. And quite quickly, by the way, Perseus was incredibly preemie, fully developed, the hero born, the child of this oracle's prophecy, the curse for this king. And so now he had, to take care of this. And just as he wasn't able to terminate his daughter, nor could he this child. And so what he did instead is he locked them in a trunk and he cast them to sea and prayed to Poseidon with sacrifice and whatnot to do the rest. And in this sense, perhaps Perseus is the child of Poseidon, because Poseidon helped them live. His waves carried this chest of wood to an island where it was fished out of the sea by a fisherman. Now, it wouldn't be for some time until Perseus, who was raised by this fisherman and his mother, but also the fisherman's wife, in a very simple way, living off the land, living off the sea. It wouldn't be until much, much later until Perseus learned that this man actually was meant to be king, but chose to step away from that royal position because he simply wanted to be a human being and didn't like what he saw from those in power. But his brother, who took the throne, his brother the king, saw Danae and chose for her to be his queen. Did he ask? she wanted nothing to do with a crown. I mean, think about her experience as the daughter of a king, locked in a bronze cage, cast to sea to her death. And this king who wanted her as his bride, as his queen, basically played this trick on Perseus because he knew that Perseus would stand in the way of his wish and probably fight to his death to protect his mother's wishes to remain crownless. As the king declared that he had found a prince from a faraway land, a princess that he would marry, if he could match the dowry required by her father, which was a horse from each man of his kingdom, maybe each family, or a horse's worth in gold. And Perseus had neither. And the king knew this. This was all his trick. Let's use better Scorpionic words for this celebration of the heart of Earth, Sun, and Mars tonight. His manipulation. But he made sure that Perseus was able to overhear whispers that reported the king's true desire to have the head of the Gorgon Medusa. And so Perseus understood that though he could not bring a horse, or that his family, the simple family, could not produce a horse's worth in gold, that if he went and got this head, this perfect trophy for the king, that he would leave his mommy alone. You see, so literally, Perseus cut Medusa's head off for his mommy. And he wouldn't have been able to do it without the assistance of Athena. So Athena curses this queen Medusa, turns her hair to snakes, her breath into whatever that was. You know what, my breath is pretty bad right now, so I'm glad you're on the other side of the screen. Maybe for a little bit more water, less tea. Right, and I mean, this beautiful queen was now this monster and just living in these cold stone ruins away from town so she wouldn't continue to accidentally kill. And you couldn't look in her eyes or you would be turned to stone. There were many statues there of these champions who came to defeat the great Gorgon and Medusa, maybe to protect their moms, who could say, you know? But Perseus was given this silver shield from Athena and instructed to not look at the Gorgon, but rather to look at her reflection. And Hermes gave him a sword and some boots that helped him get there and also find out where she was. And the deed was done. Now, when the blood from this decapitation found the stone of the ruins below, Pegasus was born. So was Chrysaor, this great warrior. I don't know much about Chrysaor or even perhaps how to pronounce that name, but Pegasus was born at this time. Like Pegasus, in this odd way, is this child, if you will, of Medusa and Poseidon. And maybe Athena? Or perhaps this is just what Medusa was meant to become. And so we've all had these kind of monster times in our lives, right? This kind of dark night time, whatever you want to call it. Which, if you can imagine, hopefully, is the cocoon between what we once were and what we were meant to be or meant to become. And perhaps there's another cocoon waiting for our next stage of caterpillar to butterfly or Medusa to Pegasus. So the Gorgon was the cocoon, I suggest. The queen, the caterpillar. Queen Medusa, Gorgo Medusa, her cocoon, and Pegasus, the butterfly, the winged horse. And you know the caterpillar is completely turned to goo in that cocoon, except for what? The breathing apparatus. So, when we're going through these deep transformations, the Scorpio invites, maybe Scorpio Sun Mars, even doubly or quadruply so. Remember to breathe in and out, and to celebrate those short deaths in between, both when the lungs are full and when they are empty. I forgot to mention that Hermes also gave Perseus a purse. Perseus. Why? Because you can't just go walking around with the severed head of the Gorgon, or you're going to turn everything to stone. And you don't want to do that without purpose, okay? So, here's our hero, or whatever, the patriarchy. I don't think so. Here's our hero who put the Gorgon's head, now as instructed by the guides and guidesses, into this purse and climbed above the Pegasus to fly home to save his mother queen from the patriarchy. But along the way, he finds Andromeda. And, I have other things I want to do. I want to get into charts and calculators. And let the mind play too. So let me not share why she was chained at the side of the cliff waiting to be sacrificed to the sea monster Cetus, but I will just say that Cetus is now a statue because Medusa's face was shown to that monster, and Andromeda was saved and would become Perseus's wife. They truly fell in love. So that was statue number 1. Statue number 2 through whatever are when he came back to this king's palace. First, he came home to the fisherman's spot to find mom, to announce that she was going to be okay, that she wouldn't have to fall to this terrible fate of becoming the queen she did not want to be. But she wasn't there. Oh, why? Because the king just made sure these whispers of the need for Medusa's head got to Perseus's ear, so he would go off on this fool's errand and surely be killed or turned to stone by the monster, but he wasn't. As soon as he disappeared, the queen just was taken by the king. So there she was in the throne room, and Perseus comes in. What do you think the last thing that the king heard? And by the way, all of his court. Mom, close your eyes. They're all statues now. Right? Fortunately, Mom listened. She is not. Let me just say one more thing about this story. The oracle was actually right. This was the oracle at Delphi, which had told Danae's father that his grandson, this was Perseus, would take his life. This happened. Later, Perseus was playing at the Olympic Games and throwing the discus, and I guess he was terrible at it, or just right, for it went all the way out of the stadium and hit the king in the head, and that was his end. That was his grandfather, who he never met. So when you hear people talk about Medusa's head in the hands of Perseus as an image of the patriarchy, maybe tell him to go read the fucking story. But, I asked a teacher of mine once, Neil Kramer, this. I was like, hey, who am I to rewrite a myth? Because, I would read these things, and it's just like, there's just not enough there, right? So I want to add a little more depth and character, but who am I to say? right? And he's like, I'll tell you who you are. You're a fucking human being. He's like, that's what we're here to do. Right? So I really appreciate that. So if in your need, that whole constellational story up there is the patriarchy demonizing the feminine, cutting her head off, do what you got to do. For me, I'd rather source the story and then work with that. Randall Carlson, the great rogue independent researcher, believes that the comet that almost once destroyed humanity came from that place of space where Algol twinkles from now and did then. And I find that to be very intriguing as an idea of demon star. So, didn't mean to go here today at all, actually. So I just want to read this that just came in. And nice to see you here. Adriana. Today a friend was making a context of the toxic figures in mythology. She chose Perseus. Yep. She chose poorly. So, there's still this unanswered question here. Why did Athena turn the queen's head into serpents in the first place? Why did she make her into this monster? Especially if you believe Ovid and she was just taken by Poseidon. Just rage. But I thought she was wisdom. Well, all wise people rage too. If they have a weird heart in their chest, as we do. But maybe she was playing some kind of long game and here to help the queen become the Pegasus. I just received notice that I am completely negligent and forgot that I have a student right now. My bad if you hear this later. And friends, I'll come back on maybe in like 90 minutes or so, or maybe after I walk the dog. So please just subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you're notified, and whether you're able to tune in at that time live or watch it later. I'm going to come back and I'm going to play with a little few things about past happenings with Cazimi's Sun-Mars conjunctions in Scorpio. But here, just that melody led me, I guess, to want to express that it is aligning opposite the projected degree of Algol. Is there a diamond in the rough? So Algol, Earth, Sun, Mars. Mars, Sun, Earth, Algol. No, Mars, Sun, Earth, Algol. What does it mean? Well, maybe that story can help in some way. How are you the caterpillar? How are you the butterfly? How are you the cocoon in between? What's coming out of you? What's emerging? What is this powerful scorpionic connection? This 780-day cycle that is seeded now require of you? Thanks for spending some time, y'all. Ooh, let's just play that thing one more time that led me here. And thanks to the twisted serpent of the saxophone. Hitler made the saxophone illegal? In your face, Gestapo. Right, which reminds me, let's talk about harmonics a little bit later.